OTAs are something that I think sometimes fans could look for a little bit more into than what's really there. The pads aren't on; they're completely voluntary, and you'll start hearing kind of some deep thoughts in regards to it. But I do think OTAs is where chemistry starts, and we've already heard some key things about the chemistry between the new center and Caleb Williams and what's going to go there, especially with Drew Dalman's surprise retirement. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what Logan Jones says about his chemistry building with Caleb Williams. And we're also going to start looking at who are some players to look out for that could stand out and show out just a little bit in OTAs. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get in content for today, y'all. And with OTAs right around the corner, Logan Jones is already focused on building the chemistry with Caleb Williams, which is really important, right? Some people will, say that, listen, Logan Jones has an opportunity to be the starting center here. And listen, I'm not going to count that out, right? I think that, the position is wide open. Garrett Bradbury is a veteran, and I would say that he probably has a leg up just as being a veteran. We know how difficult it can be for a rookie offensive lineman. But Logan Jones, for what it was worth, was the highest rated center in that draft, right? But he talked a little bit. He said this: you just communicate talking to him. In the building, we'll see each other. Every day we'll work together, whether it's like center QB exchange, you're always switching with the quarterbacks just to make sure you're solidified there. Just going out practicing and then in the building, going out of my way to talk to him, actually getting to know him. He was cool. He texted me right after I got drafted. So obviously he's a good dude and he cares about this team. I got to meet him when I was here the day after I got drafted, and he was pretty cool. Got to talk to him. I think it's going to be pretty easy to get to know him. The time is perfect for that because we're not in the season where it's super hectic and busy. I'll get to talk to him, hang out with him a little bit more. The chemistry aspect is probably the best aspect, the biggest and most important thing in OTAs. It's building that chemistry, building that second hand, building that, that repetition in what you're able to do. Drew Dalman's surprise retirement was created one of the biggest question marks on the roster, right? And for an offensive line that took a serious step up over where it had been over the last 3-4 years, last season with being one of the best offensive lines in football, losing Drew Dalman, losing to retirement, losing Ozzie Trapillo to injury, you now have guys that are coming in here. Of course, Garrett Bradbury, as the veteran, he's going to have a favorite, but the hope is that Logan Jones is going to be the long-term answer there, and whether he starts off the season as the starting center or not, we already know the accolades that he comes with. Winning the Remington Award at Iowa, right? Knowing that he doesn't allow sacks, which is a really good thing in regards to it. But that is a different to if he can understand and grasp NFL protections, the communication that's needed there, and the chemistry fast enough to be able to start at the beginning of the season. Even if he does start, and I already know there are going to be absolutely some Bears fans with the think pieces and the, oh my God, see, this is why we shouldn't have picked him if he's not named the day one starter. I'd say practice a little bit more patience with that. I know that's hard with this Bears team. We all want to see our Bears be the best and be right away and come out the gates firing and all that type of stuff. But for a center in the NFL, it may take a little bit more time for him to get acclimated, get to where he needs to be. And that's not a bad thing if that ends up being the case, right? I'll say this. We already know if Logan Jones looks ready, if he comes into this training camp, he grasps the concepts, he grasps the playbooks, he understands the protections, all those type of things, and has that shorthand with Caleb Williams, that's a lot to build through an offseason program, but we've seen it done before. And I don't just mean OTAs. I mean OTAs, training camp, preseason, right? There's going to be a lot of opportunities there. But Logan Jones being somebody who has been as good as what he was at the collegiate level, you like to think that learning curve is going to be a little bit shorter for him, especially with the Chicago Bears drafting him in what many people considered a round or even too early for Logan Jones. So it just shows that, the Bears thought highly enough about Logan to where they did not want to wait into the area that he was projected in to draft him. They wanted to make sure they got him in here for the Chicago Bears. Now, being the number one center on the draft board doesn't always mean you end up being the best, but the hope is that Logan Jones is going to be there. And it's good to hear that he has come already in with a level of focus. And that's really what you want to see from this team. And that's what you want to see and how you want to see it grow, how you want to see it develop. And let's hope that we can get there as a team. And it's going to take getting to the next step, right? And so when you look at OTAs and what that means for the Chicago Bears, there are a number of storylines for this Bears team that I think are really important, which gets us to our next topic, right? And Caleb Williams and the grasping of Ben Johnson's offense and in totality, the whole entire offense, how much better do we look, right? Like you hear from the coaching staff of what they did last year, what they feel they can improve on, all that type of stuff, right? Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears offense wasn't the smoothest at the beginning, right? We heard Ben Johnson's tough coaching style, how he stopped practice, how he had to talk about players to the body language, right? The fact that now these guys are coming into OTAs in the second year in this offensive scheme, you don't want to, like, that learning curve should already be gone there. Now it's about refinement. Now it's about how what you did last season, you take what you learned from that, and now you start off this offseason program a little bit leg up. We had to completely rebuild the offense and the concepts and the philosophies from the ground up last year. You don't want to do that, right? So now it needs to be a bigger step forward for this team, and it starts with Caleb Williams. I'm somebody that I always say, you are a quarterback in the NFL. Furthermore, you are a Chicago Bears quarterback. That comes with the undue amount of the blame and the acclaim, right? It's just is the reality of it, right? So we saw Caleb Williams make major strides last season. We saw that, right? Some people would like to say or doubt that or whatever it is, but we did see that. So now, entering year 2 under the same system, with, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first year that Caleb Williams would be entering a season with the same system, right? Like he didn't have that before. And so, that's just a thing that's there. He had a different offensive coordinator his rookie year than several in his rookie year, right? Then the second year coming into this. And even though we have a different offensive coordinator with Press Taylor now being here instead of Declan Doyle, you still have the same guy that's caused. You still have the same scheme in Ben Johnson's scheme, right? So now the accuracy and faster starts have to be areas of growth. And I hope, if I know Ben Johnson, they're going to attack that every time they get on. Whether it's OTAs, in pads, or not in pads, they're going to try to do that. You do not want to rely on the fourth quarter magic each and every week. That is a thing of the past. It has to be a thing of the past. So through this OTAs is about Caleb Williams and the Bears offense leveling up so that they can be a more sustainable offense, and the way that they win becomes more sustainable for this team, right? This year is where the superstar talk has to start becoming a reality. You have to start seeing those things, and we've seen glimpses and pieces of that. But, a year 3 jump plus year 2 in the same system, this is the jump that we can realistically expect to see from Caleb Williams, right? You want to see that. Accuracy, processing, early game command. Those are things that you want to see from Caleb Williams early in the season and show that he has that complete command over this offense. You see that from him, and that's a big step, right? But then also in OTAs, I'll say this. We can't overlook this. The offensive line battles are massive in this one. We have 2 offensive line battles in this one that came into at left tackle and center. At left tackle, you have Braxton Jones, Jedrick Williams, Theo Benedict. Those are the guys that are battling it out for the left tackle position. Now, Braxton Jones, being a player that's been here before, you can make that conversation. But Jedrick Willis, if Jedrick Willis is fully healthy, you see a world in which he can be the starting left tackle. And Theo Benedict, I like Theo. Make no mistake about it. We saw some good signs of positivity as a starter. We saw some big signs of concern. But I think with Ozzie Trapillo not expected to be available anytime soon, this is truly a 3-way battle for this left tackle position. And it starts here in OTAs. It's not going to get completed, I think, until preseason games, but it gets started here at OTAs. So Braxton, who came into last year's training camp injured, you're not doing that this year. Jedrick Willis, you got to come in and show that you can be healthy and stuff. And Theo Benedict also, I would say this, Theo needs to come in here and take this shit personally. Like, don't allow these guys to come in here and take it. Like, show that you have continued to improve and that you're ready for this role at left tackle. But then also, as we just talked about with Logan Jones, the center battle is also an important one. Garrett Bradbury was looked at as a veteran stopgap. Logan Jones is the future. But can Logan Jones turn the future into now, right? We need stability up front. We need the offensive line, which was so important to the Chicago Bears' success last year, especially in the running game. and in protecting Caleb Williams to give him more time to go to work, you need that. You do not want to have a step down from your offensive line as much as you can avoid, right? So with Ben Johnson prioritizing timing, communication, and protection to operate at a high level this year, you're looking at this. So I want to throw this one to you guys. When you look at the offensive line battles in this one, which one do you think is more important? I personally say left tackle because I think even if Logan Jones doesn't win the center position, I think Garrett Bradbury is a perfect, serviceable, stopgap veteran center. But that left tackle battle is important. That left tackle position is hugely important for the Chicago Bears. It always has been. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm a little bit concerned on trying to bet on Braxton Jones in any shape, form, or fashion. I have my concerns with that, even though he's had his signs of positivity now. So overall, there are some serious offensive line battles coming into this OTA period as well that we have to look at and hope that the Bears team can get together, right? And then another thing in OTAs, Xavier Thomas is going to get his real first look, right? Is he just a returner, or can Ben Johnson actually utilize him as a weapon? Again, pads are off, so this is only going to go so far. But I think how we see Ben Johnson and Press Taylor try to use Xavier Thomas and how consistently we hear about it in OTAs, whether it's as a receiver, as a runner, as a returner, those things, right? That 4.2 speed sounds great, but how much of it is functionally available in a football game for you, right? Ryan Post said that Xavier Thomas is more, it could be more than just a special team contributor early in the season. And so at rookie minicamp, Xavier lined up as receiver. He lined up in the backfield, so we already are starting to see the plan to use him as in the versatility. But I think that, Ben Johnson may have a package specifically for Xavier Thomas in which he tries to use him. Even the competition as the returner is something with him and Khalif Raymond is going to be something that's worth watching out for as well, right? So these OTA reps can be looked at. Again, I don't want to gas them, but I think for somebody like Xavier Thomas, who's coming in without a true position and an ability to help the Chicago Bears in so many different areas, it's really important for him is that is he just a returner early, or is he a developing chess piece for the Chicago Bears team in this offense overall, right? So how much offensive usage is going to be there for Xavier Thomas? It starts now. And we started going to hear how he's working with Richard Hightower, how he's working with Press Taylor, how he's working with the running back and the wide receiver coaches. He's going to be used and be in a lot of these different groups to really see how you can maximize on that speed and function that he has. So don't overlook Xavier Thomas as well in this one. But then also, I think that there are also keys for this one. The pass rush and the secondary also have real questions that need to be answered that goes over this, right? Ryan Poles, as we know, did not make a major edge rush acquisition. So that puts a lot of pressure on Montez Sweat, who is proven, but to have another double-digit sack season, and Austin Booker to take the leap, right? And, some people will point out certain inconsistencies with Austin Booker. I think last year, like with the injury and even when he came back, the fact that he wasn't fully healthy, there is some there. But then also, I know we've made fun. I've made tons of fun of it because it's easy to make fun of the whole motivated Dio thing, right? Like, if Dio Odeyingbo really wants to prove that he's not a free agent miss, it starts now in OTAs, right? The 33 sacks last season isn't going to pass this year. We need to get more consistent pressure. So this whole entire defensive line, I would love to see, especially, I know not everybody's going to be there in OTAs, but again, you set the standard of how you're going to improve early on. And you need guys, especially guys that disappointed last year, to show up, show out, and be ready to go in these OTA periods, because that starts it. If you get this together and show that you can be more formidable. I'm not expecting you to be elite. I'm not expecting you to be one of the best pass rushers in football. If you surprise me with that, great, but be more formidable. We need to get more pressure on QBs. We need to get more sacks. We need to be better in how we handle the run game. That's on all three levels of football. But this defensive line has a lot that they have to prove as a unit. Each and every person on this defensive line has something that they can prove. Montez Sweat, can you continue to be a leader? Can you take it a step further? Austin Booker, it was last year. The progress that we saw and the potential that we saw for you to break out, does that come this year, and can you stay healthier? Dio Odeyingbo, Grady Jarrett, Javon Dexter. There are questions about all these guys. Can Shamar Turner show out and be something consistently for this Bears team? Questions all up and down. And I didn't even mention the veterans and Neville Gallimore and more to show what they're going to show for this team. So the defensive line starts there. But then also the secondary, right? We already got Kyler Gordon dealing with a soft tissue injury. That sucks. Jalen Johnson's OTA status is uncertain. He just got married. His health does matter. You want to see him fully healthy. We haven't heard anything about that. But then also Malik Muhammad pushing Tyreek Stevenson for the cornerback 2 role. Tyreek Stevenson is not coming into this season where he's going to go unencumbered for the cornerback 2. Terrell Smith's going to try to push him. Malik Muhammad could try to push him, right? And I think is this as well with Kyler Gordon out right now, there's going to be slot corners available for everyone, and that could become a storyline as well over the course of this season. And then you also have in the secondary, Kobe Bryant and Dylan Thieneman also building and starting to work on their chemistry as the new safety duo for this team, right? So that's a huge thing for this one, right? I think I got to ask you guys this way when you look at it. Through OTAs, what's the bigger concern? The defensive line or the cornerback health? I think this, like Jalen seems healthy. We haven't really heard much about health not being a thing. I think Malik Muhammad's going to do good. But Tyreek Stevenson, Terrell Smith, Kyler Gordon, all these guys got questions in varying degrees about them, and you want to see what's going to happen with that one. But like I said, Tyreek Stevenson is going to get pushed for cornerback 2 this year. Now, he could end up still being the cornerback 2 because we know rookie corners get targeted, they get exposed, those type of things. And Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson may want to avoid that. But it's not going to be just an easy, you're the cornerback 2 and you're in this role for the entirety of the year no matter how you play. Not this year. If there's going to be health, I don't think that's going to be the case for him this year, and the Bears are going to have to show some things. So overall, I'll say this when it comes down to it for the Bears is that don't overlook a guy like Tyreek Stevenson. There are a number of guys on this team that I think you have to look at and say they are battling for their roles and to not be on the bench. One of those guys is Braxton Jones. One of those guys is Garrett Bradbury and Tyreek Stevenson. These are guys that are coming into this season, and their roles are not guaranteed. And if they do not perform, or you have guys that are behind you that are younger that outshow you, outwork you, you could very well sit your ass on the bench, right? So we'll see what's going to happen in regards to that. But those are the guys that I'm looking out for. The OTA storylines are going to be a fun one to watch because, you know, as we hear the confidence, I think that's what you really start hearing. We heard in OTAs last year, there was tons of confidence in Kyle Monangai that ended up playing out. It didn't start off the season that way, but we ended up seeing why that confidence was there in him as the season went on and how he performed as a player for this team. So, you know, you start hearing that baseline for this team in OTAs, and let's see what happens with that. But I do want to end the show talking about this, right? I want to look at it. The Chicago Bears won the NFC North for the first time since 2018 last year, right? That's a huge gap in doing that. They took down the Green Bay Packers in 2 of 3 meetings last year. We didn't win against the Detroit Lions. We got to get that back. So with the Chicago Bears looking to take it further than what they did in the first year under Ben Johnson, I want to look at some teams and what happened, with them and what can you repeat that success, right? So I want to look at some teams that improved, how they fared after going from 5 or fewer wins to more wins, right? And so when you look at it, the Washington Commanders in 2024 had a 12-5 record. They followed it up the next season going 5-12, right? The Chargers in 2024 had 11-6 record. They followed that up next season going 11-12. The 2019 49ers went 13-3, followed it up the next season by going 6-10. The 2018 Bears, we went 12-4 in that season, followed it up by going 8-8 the following year. The Texans in 2018 went 11-5. They went 11-5, and the next season went 10-6. Then you have the 2017 Rams that went 11-5. The following year went 13-3. And then the 2016 Cowboys, who went 13-3, and the following season went 9-7. So what you see there is that there's a mixed bag there. There are more teams that either followed it up or still had winning seasons the following year. There was a team in the 2018 Bears that followed it up going 8-8, a 500 record. And then you have the 2024 Commanders that went 12-5 and ended up going 5-12. There were tons of injuries in regards to that, right? With the Bears having one of the toughest schedules in football next year, the Bears are going to have their work cut out for them to keep the momentum, right? But the Bears have to do the work to not be one of those teams that follow up. And like I said before, I'm not just talking about the record. There is a complete world and a reality in which the Bears are a better team, but the record takes a bit of a step back. That is a reality that can happen here, right? But going 11-6 last year, winning the NFC North, winning the wild card round, we have a very tough schedule. We have one of the toughest, it's the toughest schedule in the NFL, right? And so teams that make a major one-year jump, they often face regression because more pressure on them. The Bears are going to have tons of more pressure because their schedule is more difficult, right? And so I think that a key for this Bears team coming into this season is going to be don't drop the games that you should win. You have to win the games that you're projected to win. Now, I have a saying that you don't always win all the games you should win. You don't always lose all the games that you should lose. That's more of an in-game thing based off play, right? But I do think a faster starts for the Chicago Bears is part of the big key here, right? If you get faster starts and not rely on the fourth quarter comeback magic, that creates a stronger long-term formula for the Chicago Bears, right? I think now with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams both having way more expectations on them this upcoming year, they have to take that by the horn and then build off that, right? So I'll say this. The pressure on the Bears is real, both internally and externally. But the internal pressure is what matters the most because this coaching staff, this Bears coaching, this team, I think is going to put pressure on themselves to be great because they want to take that necessary next step. So I want to ask you guys this one, right? Are the Bears built to sustain success? Or do you think 2026 is another prove-it season for the whole thing of what the Chicago Bears can be? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. That's going to do it for today's episode. This OTA period is not going to decide everything. It may not really decide nothing, but you may start seeing the groundwork for decisions laid out here based off OTAs, right? The defensive questions are big. The offensive questions of the offensive line are big. Caleb Williams taking that next necessary step. That's all big for this season. Last year was about us arriving. This year is about validation and showing that it wasn't a fluke. And it's up to the Bears to do that. So I want to hear from you guys on all of this. Which OTA battle are you watching the closest? Should Logan Jones start right away? Or if he looks ready, do you think bring him along a little bit more slowly? And are you worried more about the left tackle, the center, or the defensive line position for the Chicago Bears coming into this season? Drop your thoughts down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Shy Bear Central on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, chicagobearcentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.